Just want to position myself a little better. Perfect. I hope everyone can hear me. Hi, Sherilyn.
How are you tonight?
I am doing wonderful. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Looking forward to tonight.
Pardon?
I'm looking forward to tonight.
So am I. Oh my, I kind of had a crazy day, but it's okay. I'm happy people are starting to come on right now. Wow, I want to say hi to everyone. So good evening, everyone. Can you hear us both? Just want to make sure everyone can hear us. Yes, we got a yes. Where's everyone from?
That's a good sign.
It's always a good sign.
Oh my goodness. We're lighting up over here.
Yes, we are. Toronto, Ajax. I see Celeste from Ajax. Anal is from Don Mills and Shepherd. It's a lot of GTAers. Anyone outside the GTA? Mississauga, Scarborough. Hi, Zainab from Toronto. Orangeville.
Oh, someone close to me.
Sudbury.
Sudbury.
Yeah. Wow. This is pretty fantastic. I like it. Manitoulin, still a place I need to go.
Oh my God, it's beautiful up there. I've only been once, but it was beautiful.
Oh, I need to experience it in the summer, that is.
Yeah, I'm not a big winter person, I must admit.
Yeah, definitely not for the winter. Not camera ready, but you two look awesome. Thank you, Sue.
Well, thank you.
You do try. Oh my gosh. So while we get started, people are still logging in. I will start sharing this feed on our Facebook group just so that we can, get that part going. Charlotte, if you have anything you'd like to ask the group, you can go ahead while I chip away down here and do the share.
All right. Well, hello and welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to be here tonight. I guess I might just say, if there's any questions, I'm a little bit new to this whole webinar thing myself. Usually I do this kind of a presentation in person, so I'm really going to be relying on our good friend to help me out if there are specific questions that you might have. So type them out, ask away. Definitely want to have as interactive a conversation as possible, but I might need some help with the technical side of things, so I'll be relying on you for that. Yeah. Awesome. All right,
I'm still pulling everything up to go live. I don't know if anyone wants to tell us a little bit about their business, like the name of your business maybe, so we can get a feel of actually who's in business and who's planning on starting a business, and that could be a good one. Just let us know, any of you on any of the participants. Okay, artist, instructor, Sue Cliff, I see you. Mining software, wow.
Okay.
Canadian immigration.
That means we've got to mind our P's and Q's tonight. Oh, personal concierge.
Oh, awesome. I like that.
A book author. I am also a book author of a children's book. So how cool is that?
Yeah, wow. Eating psychology health coach. Can you help me not eat as much? I have a problem with that.
Community writer. I love it. Cool. A few fellow authors on the group today. That's great.
I'm loving this. I know I always say I don't like writing, which is why this kind of webinar is perfect for me. Even writing an email, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, hopefully after tonight, you'll walk away with a couple of new tips and tricks on how to make that a simple, straightforward process.
Yes, I know that I will because why is this giving me such a hard time? What is this going on? Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get this to go live and work properly, and it's not even giving me the option. We're gonna close and I'm just gonna try one more time. I've been having, what is this live on workplace business?
And I can hear kind of a little thumping almost going on. I don't know what that's all.
Typing away.
Okay. All right.
Swimming and first aid instruction business. That's pretty good. Wow. Sue, if you're saying my gift is video, I will take it. I do love to talk, so it works out well.
Well, that's good. So if I find myself at a loss for words, you'll just jump in for me?
Have that. Yep.
Good.
Talking is...
I should probably tell them when I see the hands and stuff. I move around a lot. And I'm going to really do my best to kind of stay still. But I have a tendency to do this. I'll try not to do it too much.
It's okay.
All right.
All right, let's see if I can get this. It is pulling up a stream. It's acting like it's doing something. And I'm just typing the title or a variation of.
Funny, because I'm going to talk about technology and how we think it's a tool for communication and how sometimes it doesn't work in our favor.
You know, sometimes it's not our friend, but I love it.
It says webinars now streaming live.
Yes. Woohoo!
There you go. This is, I think I said it was the first time. It's actually the second time I've been live on Facebook. So.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
You are now streaming. Perfect. I can close that window. And now we can get the ball rolling. So for those of you, people are still logging on, but I'm Dwaynia Peel, and I started Canadian Small Businesswoman about almost 6 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long already. And I wanted to have a forum where we could try to help each other grow our businesses and help each other start businesses, because when I started, I really knew not much about starting businesses. And I wanted to try to find a way to learn and to teach at the same time. So I host a lot of seminars across Ontario and expos, and they're all focused on helping women start small businesses or helping women market their current businesses. And one key component of most of my events, or all of my events, I should say, is a learning tool. I love having workshops because I love to learn. I don't want to go to events and just exchange business cards. I want to leave with a to-do list, right? So that I can go home and implement these things in my business. And I try to find speakers who will teach me something, because if I know if I'm learning something, other people around me are learning, and you know, we'll be excited to try to really build on that. A key component for me why I do these webinars is because sometimes people aren't able to come out to the face-to-face events, and I host about, I said 5 events, so from Niagara to Ottawa, Mississauga, Toronto, Markham. But there are people from Sudbury who's on this chat, Orangeville, right? So it's not easy to reach the live events. So I wanted to have something where I can be more inclusive, and it can be a short space of time, so an hour of everyone's time, where you can really learn something and implement it in your business, because we're all going to be great communicators in 2019. So we have Sherilyn to teach us how. We have the rest of the year to practice. And by 2019, January 1st, we are going to be, okay, somewhat experts, but not experts.
Experts, guaranteed. I guarantee it. Experts.
Okay, Sherilyn's guaranteeing it.
There you go.
But I know I'm still going to need her, so I'm not going to be an expert. So enough of me talking. I will interject once in a while to tell you a little bit of, stuff that we might have going on. One thing I will say, we do have an online giveaway, and it's only on social media. I'll show you what it is.
Am I eligible?
Of course. Enter to win a copy
I want that book.
of this.
I want that book.
And I also plan on doing a book club, a virtual book club, the month of January. We can read it together.
Love that idea, Dwayne.
So
Love that idea. That's awesome.
get on our Instagram or Facebook and you'll see the feed. The contest ends this Saturday. So there's that. But I'll have more to tell you later. So enough of me. Tonight is really not about me. I have my pad and pen ready to take notes. And I'm going to hand it over to Sherilyn.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for joining in tonight. I'm really excited to see so many people on here. So that's awesome. And I love what you said about sort of learning something new and interacting. And I know that whether doing something online or in person, I always feel like if I walk out with one new tool that I didn't have before, and I've gone to a lot of your events, Dwayne, and they're great. And I often walk out with much more than one new tool.
Perfect.
But even just one, you just feel like, yes, that was time well spent. And so I guess from my perspective, that's what I'm really hoping everyone will walk out of here with tonight, is at least one new tool in your toolbox that you can apply to your business. So I guess I'll start by just saying very, very quickly, I'm Sherilyn Roman. I have a company called Writing Right for You. So my goal with that company, or my tagline, I have a couple of them, we're going to talk about that tonight, is making words work well for business. So really what I try to do is help small business entrepreneurs with developing great website content, blogging for their businesses, either doing it for them or teaching them how to do it for themselves. And my ideal client would probably be someone like a website designer or a small business entrepreneur that needs someone to help them with content. So my background, many, many years corporate HR, went back to school as a teacher. So I have teaching experience. I worked at Curated College for a number of years, and I've been doing this for a while now. I don't know how well my makeup's holding up, but I've been doing this for a while. And I saw somebody, and I apologize, I forget your name right now, but I know at least one other person is a published children's book author, as am I. So that's kind of cool that we've got some things in common. So all of that said, let's kind of get on with the show because we're at least 12 minutes in already. And you might see on your screen, hopefully you see on your screen, social media sucks. So I kind of do that to get the conversation going. I'm not sure how many of you agree with that statement, considering we're using an element of social media right now.
I know, I'm watching the live feed right now.
Right? It sounds a little counterintuitive to say, hey, social media sucks. And I'm quoting there from someone who's actually a member of Canadian Small Business Women, and that's Patty Pokerachuk. I'm sorry, Patty, I might have pronounced your name incorrectly. But she talks about the fact that way too many entrepreneurs kind of hide behind their screens and think about getting a few followers on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook will solve all their revenue issues. And really, it's not that simple. We wish it was, right? That would make everybody's lives a lot easier. But what I want to talk about is how important a role communication plays in that process. So social media doesn't suck, obviously, and we use it. We're all using it all the time. And it's an excellent vehicle for attracting new clients, but it's probably not it's not going to help you to keep those clients. So someone might find your webpage, they might find you on Instagram, they might even look up your LinkedIn profile, but they're probably not going to conduct $1 million deal that way. So at some point, you're still going to have an interaction with your potential customer or client. And that's when you need to know how to communicate, not just online, but in person too. So what I'm really hoping today is that we kind of walk out of here, well, hopefully you're not going to walk out of your own home, but that we walk out of here with a little bit more of a skill set around how to communicate effectively We'll define communication. We'll talk about delivery, and look at core content and how you can go about developing core content. So, and thank you, Dwayne. You've already jumped ahead to the next slide, which is perfect because I love my cute little picture of the polar bears. And why do I have polar bears when I'm talking about communication? And really, it's, first of all, it's a visual, but more importantly, it's just a commentary on how we all communicate in some way, even animals. So animals are communicating with touch and with scent and with sound, but we're human beings. So we've evolved, presumably, and we have the ability to show emotion and to engage in relationships. And in theory, other than, well, no, I was going to make a political statement, but maybe I shouldn't. Most of us are rational and reasoning creatures. And so because of that, we have a need for more expressive language and a diversity of words that we need to choose from to be able to effectively communicate. And so, a simple example is, how is everybody feeling tonight? And you're probably all going to type a variety of different answers. I'm feeling fine, I'm feeling fabulous, I'm feeling pretty good, or I've got a bit of a headache, but I'm still here. We have expressive language precisely so that we can share with people how we're feeling and provide one another with feedback. And that reflect our emotions and all of those kinds of things. So how we express them is the definition of communication. And that's really the development of 3 critical skills: listening, speaking, and writing. And so my thoughts around communication are that these are the 3 key elements. This is listening. I always like to say I don't really attach more significance to one over another, but the truth is I probably do. I probably feel like listening is just ever so slightly more important than the other 2, because it's in the listening that we really hear what people are saying to us, what our potential customers are saying to us, what our partners in life might be saying to us, our children. And what's also such a key element to this is the listening, the speaking, and the writing is really about an expression and an exchange of information. And so when we're expressing and exchanging information, we're sharing information. So ultimately, if I had to attach any kind of a definition to communication, I would say it's about sharing. Sharing information between people, between customers, between our partners in life. And that's where the active listening comes in. And I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on what active listening means, but to me, to be an active listener is someone who's not, I've got my cell phone kind of sitting right here, and we all tend to be like, oh, I'm on a seminar right now, and oh, let me tweet about it. And, we're so busy sometimes doing things like that we're not really paying enough attention to the person themselves. Or sometimes we're really busy formulating an answer in our minds. Like, I've only got halfway through my statement and you're already thinking, oh, how can I answer that? So if that's happening, we're not being an active listener. We're not actively listening to what the person has to say. And I really think that's why listening is ever so slightly more important. How do you active listen? It's about being attentive. It's about putting that phone down, the technology piece, and just really focusing on the individual. It's about even things like body language, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the presentation, but it's about having like what's going on, what visual cues is the person giving you at the same time that they're speaking with you. So communication is really, it's listening, it's speaking, and it's writing. It's an expression and an exchange of information, and it's about sharing. So that said, I love the bridge analogy. Again, not just because it's a pretty picture, or I think it's a pretty picture, but I like the bridge analogy because it helps to kind of understand that for communication to work well, you have to have all three components. You have to have a pillar on either side, and you have to have something that spans the gap between the pillars. So in this particular example, there's water. I like to say, think about your customer being on the other side of that river, that body of water. How do you get to that person? And how do they get back to you? You can have two pillars, but without a span, there's no way to get across the river. You can't have a span just by itself, because that's engineeringly, is engineeringly a word? That's a good question. From an engineer's perspective, you can't have a span just hanging in the air without two pillars to support it on either side. And so the bridge to me really represents that. How do you bridge that gap to your customer? You have to have the three pillars working together, the two pillars and the span. It has to be the listening, the speaking, and the writing all working together to be successful in terms of communication. So looking at the next slide, and we kind of joked about this right at the beginning. So technology is a tool, it's not the answer. And I love this quote by Libby Larsen, who basically says, the great myth of our times is that technology is communication. And it's not. It is a tool in our arsenal that helps facilitate communication. And so to me, it's like we talk about a lot of times, whatever you put into a computer is what you get out. So if you're putting in content that isn't good, that's what you're going to be getting out as well. So technology is a tool that facilitates communication, but we still, as people, need to be really smart about what we're putting, or how we're using that tool, and what we're putting on that tool in terms of content. So what's going on to your website, what's going on to your LinkedIn profile. The content is the king. I mean, that expression is really old. Content is king. But what we're finding more and more is that people are really starting to acknowledge how important content is, and that it isn't just about the fancy graphics. That might draw the eye, but if you don't have the content there to support, you're going to potentially lose customers as a result. Same with in person. We need to be able to talk to people properly. And so if you've done some of that background work in terms of who am I and what do I do, and you're able to talk passionately about your business, you're going to be able to do that, whether it's online or in person. So we're going to talk a little bit about coming up with your ideal 10-word tagline. And just to kind of finish off that sort of introduction to the topic of communication, I like to refer to Tony Robbins, because he's pretty much a master at doing these, in person and online, and any kind of seminar, Tony Robbins can do it, right? So he says, to effectively communicate, we must realize that we're all different in the way we perceive the world, and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. And so why I use this particular quote, and if we were doing this in person, I would do a little exercise at this point that kind of demonstrates how important this is because we really have to understand who our audience is as well. So in order to be able to effectively communicate, we must understand the frame of reference that everybody's bringing to the table, their FOR. So is English their first language? Maybe not. We're becoming more and more diverse, particularly in and around the GTA area, where a lot of you folks are coming from tonight. And so what cultural influences are people bringing to the table? Do they have a shared experience? We can't make assumptions anymore that we're all coming from the same kind of background and have the same experiences that will literally frame how we interpret communication. So it's really important that we make that extra effort to understand what are other people bringing to the table, what are some of the cultural influences that we need to be aware of when we're communicating with others. And not just using, not always using colloquial language, which is a way of saying things that, like, I think everybody knows this expression because that's what I grew up saying. We can't do that. We can't make those kinds of assumptions when we're communicating with people. I like to say that kind of a relatively easy example of understanding this, and I wish I had a couple of boxes of cereal with me right now because I would actually hold them up. But think about if you are marketing cereal to children, and how you market cereal to children versus how you're going to market that cereal to adults would be a completely different scenario, right? Because children are going to be drawn by flashy colors and maybe a cartoon character, and you're going to have maybe 2 or 3 key words, the snap, crackle, and pop. And that's what's going to appeal to children. But adults and how you communicate to them, they're going to want to know what's the nutrition factor here, how much iron is in this cereal, how little sugar is in this cereal, what's my value for the dollar. And so that's just a very, very basic kind of approach to understanding people's frame of reference, and then how you need to tailor your message to their frame of reference. So yeah, where are we at? Take a deep breath. Anybody have any questions yet? We're going to move in now, or move on to kind of the meat and potatoes of the seminar. Just wanted to do a check-in. Is everybody doing okay? We lost them all.
I don't think so. I think they're good.
Oh, there we are. Okay, at least
right.
Sue's doing great. Laura, awesome. Okay, good. Great job.
All right, that's good.
Okay, good. Thanks, ladies. I just want to make sure that everyone was doing all right. And I told you I move around a lot. I'm really trying not to, but I'm going to try to stay still for a couple of minutes. So, looking at core content now, and we're going to go through a little bit of an exercise together. And Dwayne, do they get the slides at the end of the presentation?
I can send the slides out if you'd like.
Okay. All right. Because probably given our time constraints, it's already like 8:27 according to my computer, we probably won't be able to sort of literally go through some of the exercises that I would normally like to do. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we can talk about that and making some of the slide deck available afterwards for anybody that wants to, continue the work.
You let me know and I can send out anything.
Perfect. Okay. So looking at what's at your core. And because what I'm saying is, in business, it's what's at your core that counts. What's at the heart of your business? Why do you do what you do? What are you passionate about? And how do you tell people what you're passionate about? Well, you have to identify some keywords that help describe your business to potential customers, to people when you get on that elevator to do that elevator pitch, when you're going to networking events, when you're going to Dwayne's events in Markham and Ottawa and Toronto and Mississauga and where? Niagara Falls. I want to go to Niagara Falls. That'll be fun. It's about positioning yourself so that you've got sort of a core group of words that describe who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And so in determining what those core words are, you're going to come up with kind of a 10, a 12 word tagline that becomes your introduction to people. So kind of jumping a little bit ahead of myself, but how do we go about determining what core content is? We're going to walk through that. And really, what is core content? It's content that is current, that's original, that's relevant, and that's engaging. That's what core is. It's current, it's original, it's relevant, and it's engaging. At the same time, because we just want to make your life really challenging, core content is also creative. So no pressure there. You've got to come up with all kinds of creative stuff. It's optimized. I mean, that's an obvious one, right? We want to make sure that it's search engine optimized for you. It would be really great if it's memorable, if it can be remembered. And, exceptional is always a goal to strive for, right? We all can strive to be exceptional. So couple of really simple examples that I think probably everybody has heard. Nike, their slogan has been their slogan forever, and it's just do it. And the cool thing about that is just do it really applies to everybody, because it is whatever you want it to be. If you're a runner, just doing it is running. And if you play basketball, it's playing basketball. So it's a great slogan. It's just do it, whatever it is. And it's memorable. It's only 3 words. I can remember that. It's about all I can remember some days. Same with Tim Hortons. They have several, but one of them is you've always got time for Tim Hortons. So that's an exceptional branding message, because they're not even talking about coffee. They don't even mention the word coffee. They're branding their company in their statement. You've always got time, not for coffee, for Tim Hortons. So they're getting you to say their name even as part of their branding statement. And so that's where I want you to kind of put your head a little bit. What can we say about your business that's going to be that memorable and that's going to stay current and original and relevant and fresh and that kind of thing. So how we do that is we go through a little exercise, and these next couple of slides are probably slides that, as I said, Dwayne, if anybody wants them afterwards, let's make sure that they get out there, because we probably can't do this over the next 5 or 10 minutes. And we might toggle back and forth between them, if that's okay.
Yep.
Because this is how you get to discover what your personal top 10 words are and discover really what's at your core. It's a big old funnel. So those of you that are in sales have probably seen a sales funnel before. I basically kind of just took that idea, that same analogy, and said, hey, how can we apply this to communications? And what I want you to do in working through this funnel is really start to think about, what are your core values as an individual? What do you bring to the table in terms of your business? Being able to describe your product or service, and answer the 5 W's. And in answering the 5 W's, that's going to help you to describe your product or service and to identify your core values. And so what are the 5 W's? I'll go into a little bit more detail, but basically that's the who, what, where, why, and then there's the how, which isn't a W, but it's part of the same sentence. But going through this exercise is going to help you drill down into determining what are the best 10, possibly 12, 13 words that describe your business. So if you look at the next slide, I kind of started to go through this exercise myself, just to give you an idea of what's important to me and how I went through this exercise for my business. And so I talked about what are some of my core values. For me, integrity over everything else is, to me, your word is your word. If you're going to do something, you follow through, you do it. And people have to know that I want people to know that they can rely on me and that I am honest and truthful. Those are values that I hold very, very dear to my heart. I also love to help people and provide assistance and support them in being successful. I like to connect people. So those were all values that were really important to me. And what is my business? Well, my business is about making words work well for other businesses. And who do I serve? I serve entrepreneurs. What do I do? I write website content. I blog. Why do I do what I do? Because I love words. I'm a bit of a word nerd. That's kind of how I refer to myself. So it made sense for me to build a business around doing something that I love. From all of those statements, the idea is to then funnel down to come up with a sentence that really truly reflects who you are and what you do. And that sentence then becomes kind of the base for everything else that you do. It becomes your tagline on your website. Maybe it goes on your business card. Every time you write a blog, that should be the final statement at the end of the blog. I have, so my business card, I don't know, this might be, it's probably too small, isn't it? Yeah, that's way too small. But that's kind of, you know, I kind of have my current tagline at the bottom of my business card. And if I go to a networking event and we do one of those, hey, everybody stand up, you get 2 minutes to tell people what you do and why you do it. Right now, I say, if you're at a loss for words, I can help you find them. Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because every time I do this seminar, I'm like, it still needs work. It still doesn't talk about the integrity side of things to me. I feel like I still need to build in some kind of a word around integrity just so that people know how important it is to me. But the other thing that you want this sentence to do, and I think it does do this, is you want this sentence that you come up with to invite a conversation with people. So I don't know how many of you, especially the couple of folks that have said that they like to write, I don't know if you've ever gone to a networking event and someone says, you know, hi, I'm so-and-so, what do you do? And you say, I'm a writer. And I've done that. And you get that sort of deer in the headlights. Oh my. Oh, a writer. Oh, that's how nice. Yeah, it's kind of like, you write poetry? Or are you up in an attic typing away on a computer? Like, there's imagery, and sometimes, right or wrong, there's some assumptions about, you know, what does a writer do? So instead, I want to say something like, my name's Cheryl Roman, and if you're at a loss for words, I can help you find them. Because my goal with that is to have someone say, oh, what does that mean? How can you help me find words? And now they're inviting me to have a conversation with them. And I can go into a little bit more detail about what I do and why I do it. So that's kind of the idea, what we're trying to create here. And I know I was tempted to kind of suggest that we get some feedback from participants. And by all means, if someone's already got something in mind, type away and let us see what it is. If you don't, the other thing, and I don't have a slide for this, but the other way that you can do this, if the funnel thing doesn't work for you, I also like to have alternatives for people because we all learn differently and we all think differently. So, and again, I'm going to hold something up. I'm not sure if it'll work. Oh, there you go.
Yes.
So you've all seen something like that before. Basically, just kind of a mind map, right? And so the other alternative, if the funnel isn't working for you, take that mind map and just think at the very center of everything, what's the most important thing to me in my business? And whatever that word is, then start to think about some of the other words that support that. And maybe that's how you come up with your sentence. Maybe that's how you describe what's at your core. So whatever method works for you, the goal is we're trying to determine what's at your core, and then that becomes your base, your framework for everything else that you do. So that was a lot. And now you almost kind of have some homework to do. I'm not sure how many of you were thinking you were going to walk out of here with some homework, but I think it's a really important exercise. And even though, I will just say once more, even though it says the top 10 words, I've said 11, 12, 13. The goal here is to just keep it fairly short and concise. Because if you start getting into a 25, 30 word explanation, you're going to lose people. So if 10 doesn't seem quite enough for you and 15 is too many, you know, it's fine somewhere in the middle as well. Don't focus so much on the actual number of words as much as you focus on the words themselves.
A few people typed in some of their statements. One, Selena said, I help people exit the rat race.
I love that.
I like that. Zainab.
That was like, that's
good. Yeah. Zainab says, I speak people's minds. Ooh, not I read, but I speak it. I like it.
Yeah.
And awesome. Amal For Canadian immigration seminars held overseas, Canada wants you. And then a maple leaf symbol.
Perfect.
Huh.
Perfect. I probably don't need to do the rest of the seminar because it kind of sounds like you guys are already doing all of the right things. Those are three great examples. They really are.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing, it's disappeared. I saw one more.
Helping people get a web that works since 1993, or Kathy, 100% Canadian comfort since 1993.
See those, and they invite conversations, right?
Yeah.
What is that? What's Canadian comfort? What does that mean? Like, these are great. These are great.
Yeah.
They pop up for some reason, and we're not going to figure out the technology, but they pop up, but only for a second or two, and then I can't see them anymore.
Oh, you know what? I have the chat open. That's why. You can open the chat from the top.
Oh, okay.
And I leave the box open on the side so I can read all of them. Don't worry.
I'll probably just stick with because so far this is working, Dwayne, so I feel like if we touch anything, something will happen.
It's okay. See, I come in on the technology front.
Perfect. Well, listen, based on what I'm already hearing, you guys are already doing all kinds of great work around communication, and so that's fantastic. If you want to maybe fine tune it a little bit, let's look at it that way. Maybe this is an opportunity to fine tune the great work that you're already doing. Here's some things to think about in terms of the kinds of words, and this is basically another exercise that you would go through when you're looking at creating your website content or blogging, any of those things. What you want to do is go through and ask yourself, does your website meet this criteria, these groups of words that I'm going to talk about? And these words, I really do think that if you get them, if we have a solid understanding of what these words are, and you apply that to your website content, to your blogging, your LinkedIn profile, all those kinds of things, then they're going to work really, really well for you. So they're in groupings. It's around having clarity and being concise, that punctuation matters and being precise, having both style and substance and form and function, and then understanding context and being consistent in your message. So very, very briefly, clarity, of course, is around saying something right the first time. When we're having a conversation, even one like this, if something doesn't come out right the first time, you have an opportunity to clarify. But when you're on website, and we know that consistently people typically spend between 10 and 30 seconds on a website, if you haven't gotten your message right in that first few seconds, you're not going to get a second chance to have that clarity and to correct or fine-tune what you're saying. So it's really important to have clarity right off the top. And one of the best ways around getting clarity or achieving clarity is to be concise. So sometimes, even though I talk a lot, when we talk about putting stuff on the web, brevity is the best rule to kind of follow. And that is to just be very, very choosy about your words and be brief in your descriptions so that you don't lose people in all of the sort of extra language that we think sounds fancy, but really is just clouding up our main message. So it's about being clear and being concise and not having to clarify something. Have that clarity right up front. Does punctuation matter? 100%. I don't know how frustrated you folks get when something isn't spelled correctly. And if I see, and if we were doing a longer seminar, I would show examples of this, where people are advertising quality products, but quality is spelled Q-A-U-L-I-T-Y. So yeah, and it happens so often, so much more than you might think or assume. So if they can't even spell quality correctly on their website, are we really trusting that they have a quality product? Probably not. So there was a survey, there's been tons of surveys around this topic, but one in particular that resonated with me came out of England a couple of years ago now, but it said upwards of 70% of people will immediately turn away from a website if it contains spelling or grammatical errors, because that's your brand. That represents who you are. And if you don't even take the time to do that right, what is that saying about you? When it comes to being precise, and I hear this a lot from folks who maybe English isn't their first language, English is an incredibly frustrating language sometimes because there are so many words that mean the same thing. And this isn't self-promotion, but I will just say as an example, on Wednesdays on my Facebook business page, you're smiling, Dwayne.
Yes, I love it.
Oh, well, thank you. I play a little game. We call it Wordplay Wednesday, and it's all about words that sound the same, often are spelled the same, but have two different meanings. And so, it's a fun little game that I play on my website, but or on my Facebook page, sorry, but it's a really good example of how frustrating the English language can be.
I read today's. I thought it was kind of cool.
So what was today's? Do you remember?
It was one word it can be long-winded, especially, I just read it. One was long-winded, one is wood.
Yep. So some of the clues were, it can be related to wood. It can be related to music.
Yep.
It can be long and twisty and sometimes tangled, especially at this time of year when we're putting up our Christmas lights. And so the words are cord and cord.
Yeah.
So cord, C.O.R.E. And that's like the cord of Christmas lights, and chord, C.H.O.R.D., which refers typically to music, playing a chord of music on a guitar, for example. So how frustrating is that if you're, trying to, especially if you're trying to learn the language, and they sound identical, but they have completely different meanings. So even though that's frustrating, and we've just talked about why that's frustrating, so it's also an excellent opportunity to be precise and make sure that you're using the best possible word, right? Because sometimes there's more than one word to choose from. So go ahead and do a little bit of research, look on Google and use a thesaurus and choose the best word possible. And the other thing about being precise, not to kind of just beat it to death, but think about something like, the color green. There's forest green, dark green, light green, lime green. So again, if you're going to go to all the trouble of communicating, then communicate well by being very precise around your language. Wow, I should really be mindful of time here.
Oh, yeah. My job is to keep you on time. That's right, Charlene. If you could go ahead.
Yeah, I'll get moving. Okay, I'll stop talking so much. Style and substance, pretty straightforward stuff. That just has to do more with what I like to call the readability factor. When you've done all of this hard work, read it in your out loud voice. That's what, we say sometimes. Oh, I said that in my out loud voice. Read your content in your out loud voice. Does it make sense? Does it sound good? It's a good second step once you've done all of the hard work. Form just has to do with, how you write is as important sometimes as what you write. And same with function. What is the purpose of your communication? So here I just typically use little examples like, not to sort of throw a negative note into things, but if you were writing an obituary, a funeral announcement, and you're familiar with the font on your computer called Comic Sans, which kind of looks almost like a comic strip, you're not going to use that font to write a funeral announcement. And
unless you're writing the announcement for
Charles Schultz, right?
Right.
Or the guys that wrote the hopefully they're not gone yet, the Zix comics. That's the one that comes to mind immediately for me.
Or Stan Lee, because he wrote a lot of comics.
Right.
So
yes, there might be an occasion where it is entirely appropriate, but generally it wouldn't be. Just like you wouldn't use Twitter, or again, you would hope you wouldn't use Twitter or a text message to fire somebody, right? So it's about
Your
understanding.
name is Donald.
Yeah, I didn't go there earlier on.
I know, I did. It's okay. It's okay.
And lastly, context and consistency. Context is just making sure that you're using the right word in the right setting. I could probably go into a much longer definition of that, but I probably don't have the time. And consistency really goes back to that core 10 words again, and that whatever you're putting out there, make sure that it's consistent across all of your social media platforms, because it's consistency that's going to keep people interested and being able to understand what your main message is. So now your next slide is a little bit of work for the participants. And what I would invite you to do is read these 2 sentences. Think about everything that we've just talked about in terms of core content and using the best words possible. And think to yourself, is there a better, easier, more succinct way to say either of these 2 sentences? And we can work together. If someone thinks they've got a rough idea, type it in. We can work on this together. And if necessary, maybe we can look at an incentive, like a $5 gift card.
Well, the second one could be, use smaller words to express yourselves.
Love it. Yes. Yes.
Like, seriously, loquacious? This is that word.
What kind of a word is that? Prodigious, unloquacious. I did this seminar not too long ago for the city of Brampton, and I actually had people get their phones out and they were Googling it. What does that word
Well, I know what loquacious means because I hear it used, but this is crazy.
Right. And it's just not necessary. So yeah, the second sentence is basically why use a big word when a small one will do.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it boils down to. And so I think that whole concept of, impressing people with your knowledge, really what that sentence is kind of a reminder to us that it matters that we know what we're talking about, but our customer doesn't necessarily need to know everything in that level of detail.
Yeah.
They just need to know, like, and trust that you can, yes, I see somebody said, keep it simple. That's exactly what it's about, right?
Yeah. And the first one, can I just get someone to get my cat out of the tree?
Absolutely. That's what it is. Help, my cat is stuck in a tree, right? So if you call 911, you're like, I'm desperately seeking immediate assistance from and 911 operator's going, what? Say what? So again, yeah, keep it simple, keep it short and to the point. Sometimes it's because you really need to get that message out quickly. There's something urgent. And in the case of the second sentence, it's we need to earn the trust of our customer by help that they understand that we know what we're talking about. But do I need to know all the details of? No, I don't need to know all the details. So thanks for playing along with that. That was
interesting. Yeah.
All right. Let's kind of these last 3 slides. I think are kind of get down to the real nuts and bolts. Now,
all right, let's
colloquialism.
Roll through it.
Go through it. I'm rolling through it. Okay. You've already done all the core work. You know that you need content that is current and original and relevant and engaging, all of that fun stuff. Now you're going to put that content to work on a website. So you want to design a website that works. And so what you want to do is think of your website like a resume. And going back to the second sentence just a second ago, do I need to explain to you every job I've ever had? And the fact that I was a grocery store clerk to put my way through university? No, all of that stuff doesn't go on your resume. So it's the same with your website. We just want to talk about the facts, just the facts. Think about it. Think about this as the weekly specials, the flyer for the grocery store. What's going to get you in the store? Once you're in the store, you can sell whatever you want to your potential client. But what you're looking for on a website is just to get them interested in the first place. So keep it pretty short and simple. Treat it like a resume. and engage in what I like to call targeted marketing. And I'll explain that in a second. How you do all of this is by being very specific around answering these 5 W's that I alluded to earlier. Who times 2. So very clearly identify who you are and what you're doing, and then very clearly identify who is your target audience. So I use the analogy about going out fishing. And you're fishing for tuna because that's your favorite fish and that's what you want to have for dinner tonight. And you throw a big net out into the body of water and you catch some tuna, but you're also going to get, whatever else is caught up in the net, a starfish and a couple of octopus, which are, some people like them, but me not so much. You're going to get a lot of other stuff caught up in that net. And now you've got to take the time to get that stuff out of your net. And it's a time waster. If you only went out fishing for tuna in the first place, it's going to be much more effective. So just say that right up front. Here's who I am, and this is why I do what I do, and here's my ideal client. And you've eliminated, that a lot of people talk about cold calling, and I guess I'm not going to ever suggest to you that you shouldn't cold call, but if you've got 10 minutes of time, you can make 10 one-minute phone calls to people that will probably never be your customer, or you can invest the time in one 10-minute long phone call with someone who's potentially your ideal customer. So that's the idea here. Talk about what you do. Be specific, but be brief. Apply all of those rules that we've already talked about. Tell people where you do what you do, when you do it, especially this time of year. If you've got holiday hours, make sure they're on your website. Again, these sound like common sense things, but so many people don't do them. Or they'll put up their Christmas hours, but then they'll leave them up there till July of 2019. So everything we're talking about is also only works if you keep it current and fresh and updated somewhat regularly. Talk about why you do what you do. Not in any extensive great detail, but people, right-brained people, the creative kind of people in your crowd, they want to hear why you do what you do. It matters to them, and they're going to respect that. And make sure that you also talk a little bit about the details to appeal to the left-brained people, but not so much that you're using industry jargon that's only understood by a core group of people. So you want to keep that a little on the condensed side. If you're looking at just creating a website right now, really what you want to do is have 3 pages, if nothing else. If all you've got time for or the budget for, make sure you've got a home page, a services page, and an about you page. And make sure that there's a call to action button on every page. And people are lazy, and I've already said they only spend between 10 and 30 seconds on a website. And by people being lazy, I put myself in that same category, by the way, so I'm not calling anybody names. But put a button right on all 3 of those pages that says, here's how to contact me. Make it simple for people. So next slide is looking at talking a little bit about curated content. So I've said lots tonight about being current and original and relevant and all of those kinds of things. And yet we hear all the time about sharing information on Facebook and sharing things, articles. I just read this great article on LinkedIn. So I want you to know that by no means am I saying ditch the curated altogether. I specifically worded it, core is defined, so ditch the curated. Should we ditch it? No, absolutely not. There are occasions when sharing curated content, and curated just means repurposed. Basically, you're taking an idea from one place, an article that you've read, and you're sharing it through your own social media channels. And there's times when that's totally appropriate. But I invite you to make sure that you put your own spin on it. And so I did my own little informal research about a year ago now, because everybody talks about babies and puppies, and that if you want to ever advertise anything, make sure you've got babies and puppies, right? Dwayne, you've probably heard that as well, right? So I lucked out and I found a post one day that had babies and puppies in it together playing. It was awesome. I'm like, oh, here's my experiment. And so I put it out there And I literally saw over a 3-4 day period, 130% increase in the number of people that were visiting my business page.
Wow.
130%. But what I did is I didn't just share the post. I invited my followers to caption the pictures. And I said, best caption, the wittiest kind of caption, will get a $5 gift card for coffee. So go ahead and use curated content on occasion, so long as it's not too long past its best before date. If you're sharing something from 2012, it is no longer relevant, period. But if you are going to share something like a babies and puppies post, put a spin on it that makes it personal and ties back in to your business. Oh my God. I have two more slides, I think.
Oh,
Is it 2? Maybe 3. How are we doing, everybody? 5 more minutes?
yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Yeah.
Is everyone okay?
Everyone's good.
Everyone's good? Awesome. Sure thing. Okay. All right.
Thank
you. This would be an example of me not practicing what I'm preaching, right? Not being brief and to the point. Okay. Blogging. This is the bane of so many people's existence. No one likes it. When you say the word blog, people are like, oh my God, I really dislike the idea of blogging, right? So, you can hire someone to do it for you. You can pay one of these services like that kind of create all kinds of canned content, but that's not going to be fresh. That's not going to be individualized, and that's not going to say much about who you are as a person. So what I'd rather do is say to you, here's a couple of quick tips and tools that are going to set you up to be able to blog for yourself. And you don't have to blog 6 times a day. You certainly don't even have to blog 6 times a week. But what you do have to do is just come up with a schedule that fits your availability and be consistent about it. So blogging is your attempt to kind of build an audience by drawing people in, by offering them information that they might not otherwise have had. It's about sharing something of value, sometimes giving away a little piece of your knowledge and expertise for free because you're trying to build that know, like, and trust factor with your customers. And so what matters most is when you're trying to build an audience is even if you're only blogging a couple of times a month, that's fine. But make sure you're always doing it on the same day at roughly the same time, because you're building or you're giving people an opportunity to then start coming to look for you. Like I know Cheryl Lynn always blogs on, the 10th of the month and the 20th of the month. And I like what she has to say, so now I'm going to go and start looking for it as opposed to just waiting for it to pop up into my inbox. So it doesn't matter how often, just be scheduled and consistent about it. And set yourself a reasonable goal. If you've never blogged before, then just do 1 a month for the first 6 months. 6 blogs is a lot if you're not a writer and don't like writing, right? That's a lot. Do the simple things like write about what you already know. And so if you've already gone through that exercise, the funnel exercise, you had to answer the who, what, where, why, and how of your business. There's 5 blogs right there. So 6 blogs, who, what, where, why, when, and how. There's a bunch of blogs that you can write about. And blog number 1 is here's who I am, and just share a little bit about yourself. And blog number 2 is here's what I do. That's a way you're personal. We can all share a little bit of information about ourselves and probably feel a little bit of comfort around writing about ourselves. That's an easy way to start. 500 words is all you need. That literally anything over 800 at an absolute kind of ceiling. I look back, even, Dwayne, you'll laugh, even some of the first few blogs I ever did for Canadian small business women, they're like 1,000 words long. And like, people probably tuned out after 400, like, oh my God, how, it's too much. 500, perfect.
Yeah, I agree with 500. And I agree with, if you're blogging, bullet points and numbers are just amazing. People love lists.
Perfect. Absolutely. And it makes it clear and concise and easy to read, right? Absolutely. So thank you. Yeah, you're right. Bullet points are fantastic. Keep a diary. We've got the phones. So, if you're out on the road, I don't know about you, but it's either when I'm out on the road or it's in the middle of the night when I have brilliant ideas, right? So reach for your phone. You got the notes section on here and just jot down a couple of things. And then you've got it to come back to.
Or use the voice app. You can record yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, so that way the idea isn't lost, because I don't know, I'm dating myself. I'm a woman of a certain age. The brain is not working quite as well as it used to. So I need tools like that to remind myself, oh, that was my good idea. Now, when I get home, I can sit down and flesh it out in a blog and keep it short and simple. I saw somebody, it popped up, use the KISS analogy. And I use the polite version of the KISS analogy, which is keep it short and simple. Highly recommend that. So, yeah. And remember, what we're trying to do here is build the know, like, and trust factor again and provide your potential customers with some information. So always try to spin it back to your business at least a little bit, but it doesn't always have to be about your business either. Sometimes you can just talk about current events. And even if the link is very tenuous to your business, that's fine. And along the same lines, looking at LinkedIn profiles. So that's the next slide. All the same rules apply. Your core rules apply here. In your LinkedIn profile, we should ask everybody, how many people have a LinkedIn profile? Because when I do seminars, a lot of people don't.
People don't understand the power of LinkedIn. I can tell you, I probably have almost 2,000 connections on LinkedIn, and it is really good.
I love it. And there's a perfect comment. Couldn't be in business without it.
Yep.
And Sue, I agree with you. And yet I still continue to run into so many people that don't have a LinkedIn profile.
Everyone thinks Facebook is king for business, but LinkedIn is really where it is.
Yeah. It's like having an online resume, right? Yeah. You don't have to send it out anywhere. It's sitting there for you, if it's a good profile, it's doing all the work for you, right? So again, once you've come up with that 10-word branding statement that speaks to who you are and what you do, get that on your LinkedIn profile. And more, I feel, and Dwayne, I'd be interested to hear what you think, the executive summary, that little blurb right at the top, that's your sales pitch. That's your opportunity to create a commercial about yourself and get people interested. And then if they want to scroll down and read more of the details, they can.
My LinkedIn is really based on my profession. So I'm in science, and I do get so many contacts, people wanting to offer me jobs, a lot of jobs from that. But outside of that, I still do use my LinkedIn for Canadian Small Business Women, and I have a lot of contacts from that. So the executive summary is key. And I try to, and also the one thing a lot of people don't know, with your LinkedIn, you can change your URL. So you can make I think mine is connector or something like that. You can make it something nice and fun so that when you're handing out your LinkedIn profile, it's like, I don't know, something fun.
You're absolutely right. The idea, I think, with the LinkedIn profile, the idea is to get noticed, to have it sitting there doing some work for you without you really even having to do any work. It's a great opportunity to, I like that you said the word connector, because when I meet people at a networking event, and then I think to myself, oh, you would be a really good connection for a lady that I met 3 weeks ago. It's LinkedIn that I'm going to do that. There's a feature where you can pull in and connect people through LinkedIn. So yeah, put your statements to work, make your executive summary work for you, so that when you're sharing it, the people that you're connecting with are really getting a good opportunity to get to know you at least a little bit.
And have a photo, please. Have a photo.
Right?
What's a profile without a photo?
You brought that up, Dwayne, because I'm one of the ones that resisted for a long time. I sort of felt like, oh, if people want to do business with me, it shouldn't matter what I look like. And, and sure, that's true. But the reality is it's a face to a name. It's recognition. Yeah. So if we meet on on LinkedIn, but then we meet for real in a coffee shop. We know what one another looks like.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes it's that simple, right? Make sure that you're getting noticed on LinkedIn by blogging and sharing and commenting. But again, the core rules apply. And join other groups as well. Join the Canadian Small Business Women group, right? Like, get yourself noticed.
And I'm always looking for bloggers because I don't like to blog myself.
There you go. There you go. And yes, I've been a little bit remiss just lately. I love blogging, and I blogged a lot for CSBW. Yeah.
And we've been getting a lot of new faces. I think I had about 5 new bloggers this year, so that's good. So
awesome.
Always looking for bloggers.
Good. There you go, ladies. Anyone that wants to do a little bit of writing. I'm going to leave you with a quote that I picked up just literally about 2 weeks ago. For small businesses, content marketing is one of the best and most economical ways to drive customers to your site. So sounds a little self-serving because I'm saying, hey, words work, but the reality is words work.
Mm-hmm.
So I really thank you. We went a little bit over time. I really thank you for the opportunity to be part of this and in going over time, but for your interaction as well. It's been great. Thank you.
I thank you. And I hope that we can all be great communicators. I remember hearing somewhere a long time ago, because you were talking about listening, speaking, and writing, and listening is, that much more than the others, because I don't remember where I heard it, but something along the lines of communicating effectively. It's not about what you're trying to say to the other person, is what that other receives from what you've said.
That's it exactly.
Right?
That's it exactly.
So I received a lot today. I can tell you that. And I have some notes of some stuff I need to do, but I'm very thankful for this. I don't know if anyone has any questions, because I'm sure Charlene had a lot of information, but what I will do is this will be available for replay probably within the hour on YouTube, on our Canadian Small Business Women YouTube channel.
Okay.
And I will send a thank you email to all the registrants, and I will extract some of the slides. Charlotte, if you don't mind just popping me an email with what slide numbers you would like me to include, I can just pull that and I can hand it out to everyone. And I will also forward you Charlene's contact information, as well as our Facebook group, because you really need to play Wordplay Wednesdays. I'm stumped a lot. I usually wait until late in the day when everyone already puts their answers in, but it is fun. And I invite you to make sure you go on our social media channels to try to win this copy.
I want that book.
Michelle Obama. And if you don't win, you can always purchase a copy and read along with us. I'm trying to force myself to read more because I love television. So I'm trying to read more, and this will be a chance for me to read along with everyone else. And we do have some really nice promos going on. They're all on our social media channel. So make sure that you follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. We are everywhere. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Canadian Small Business Woman, or you can find me as Dwania McClarty-Peel. And when am I starting the book club? So I can only promise that we're reading one book right now. Let's see what happens after that. But it will be for the month of January. The event is listed on our Facebook page. So we would probably read the way how the book is laid out, it's 4 sections, I believe. No, I might be lying. 1, 2, yes, 4 sections. So 3 sections: Becoming Me, Becoming Us, Becoming More, and then there's an epilogue. So we would read a section a week and discuss it. And I would love to invite a couple of people to join me on the live session to discuss the book, so it's not just me talking. I mean, I love to talk, but it'd be nice to share the stage with others. I'm no Oprah, but I can pretend to be.
You do a pretty good job, actually. I think you're doing a good job. So.
Thank you. So yeah, it will be kind of fun. And hopefully I can see some others on. We'll have one more webinar for the year, and then we'll start fresh again in January. And we have all our events coming up next year. We have our seminar in Markham, and that's in February. Oh my gosh, it's very soon. So if you'd like to attend, we do have tickets on sale for 50% off right now. Promo code is cyber, and I think it's going to be until the end of this week. So go to our Facebook page. The link is there, or our website. And that's all I have to say, except for thank you so much, Sherilyn, and thank you all for being on with us. I actually have another call in 15 minutes.
Oh, well, good business. Thank you so much once again. It was really a pleasure to meet and read all the little comments and meet everybody. And thank you, Dwayne, for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Bye.